Okay.
You have a lot of reward, like chapter on the background.
Yeah,
Certificate, right?
certificates.
Many
Yes.
certificate. Yeah.
And I kind of feel like certificates is the main theme that we are going to discuss a lot today because
Oh yeah, yeah,
whether
yeah.
the supplies have the right certificate is one of the topic we would like to discuss with you.
Yeah.
But again, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to discuss with MedsupplyLife about the current supply chain challenges.
Mhm.
So, do you mind to give our audience a brief introduction of yourself, Dr. Wang?
Yes, sure. My background is actually I graduated from medical school in '93, so it's like over almost like 30 years. And first a couple years include both from in Shanghai and here practice medicine for a couple years before. But yes, since like 2002, I involve a lot of like a startup, either you call product development or call project with some big company like Johnson Johnson, Medtronic, or some other, and but basically it's funded by the venture capital. And 5 years, yes, that's my side business. Okay, and since like 5 years ago, I spent a lot of time on those projects. So most famous investment include like Intuitive Surgical. So it's actually I have do one is deeply connected within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, although majority is in the type 3 devices. And
Mm-hmm.
also another is I involve a lot of global expansion for those projects we are working with. So that's actually the key reason. And yeah, of course, my background on the medical side, and actually is a member for multiple association in the medical side, like the healthcare professionals. So I know how the healthcare system run both China and the United States. And
And
also I know how we do the devices in both sides.
yeah,
Usually for the devices, we do major four, I would say major four certificate, like you mentioned, a lot of certificate issues. Major four is like Europe, currently is CE system,
I
but
see.
they're gonna move to the MDR. So that's actually in progress. And the
Mm-hmm.
United States FDA system, and then you have the China actually GB system. So and Japan the MHLAW manages the manufacturer side, and the PMDA manages the marketing side. So
Right.
that's a major. So that's each market has a lot of different certificate requirements, and but if you're looking at the general, I would say philosophy of how FDA manages those issues, they usually from three directions to manage it. One is the manufacturer itself, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the FDA compliance globally. And
Right.
I know FDA has the office even with a lot of consulates globally. So, like for example, in China, they have 7 people in Beijing as
Only
FDA.
seven
As
people?
FDA. Yeah, 7 people. I know. I know them really well because some of
Wow.
my projects need some of the manufacturer needed them has the inspection, working on the compliance and those things, et cetera. And then the product itself, of course, is the major management direction as well for FDA. And that's usually you heard a lot like a type 1, type 2, type
Sure.
3. And within like this time, the COVID-19 involve a lot of PPE. And though the PPE majority is type 1, and
Mm-hmm.
some is go to type 2. And
Mm-hmm.
for those type 1, majority of 510K exempt, but some is still need some kind of 510K. But I didn't see anything on the PMA side. The Type 3 has a lot of PMA side.
Correct.
So it's like that's in, then you can tell how complex is it. And then you have the
Yes.
EUA going on, right? Emergency usage authorization going on.
Correct.
And the EUA involves 6 different market admission permit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Canada, Australia, some of China standard, and Korea, Mexico, and CE. So 6 market permit also involved in the already very complex situation, right?
Sure.
So for the PPE. Yeah.
Like since you mentioned there are so many different system and compliances to actually follow, my question is, do you think there would be a challenge, especially for the suppliers back in China, to communicate and really follow the compliance of the FDA? And have you ever seen any kind of the challenge or difficulties happen during this the practice?
Oh yeah, actually, there in China, the challenge for the manufacturer because the majority of the, let's say, China really don't have too much manufacture focus on the PMA, which is basically the need design the manufacturers themselves. Majority of them is like OEM, like the contract manufacturer. So
Mhm.
for them, a lot of manufacturer only focus on the manufacture processing compliance with FDA.
Mhm.
So that's actually a key reason. Even a lot of PPE is a newly established manufacturer or company. They might be established during or before the COVID pandemic in China. So that's actually they don't have too much like a history, understand how does it works. Like give you one big example, like California have an order with like a BYD, which is
Right.
a car manufacturer side, and over $1 billion order there. And
Mhm.
then, but the company initially never touched the medical devices,
Sure.
right? And they actually convert the car manufacturer to the medical devices, and they don't even have a clear understand like what's a KN95 difference
Okay.
versus N95. So in the process side, how long does it take?
Mhm.
What's the process and what kind of professionalism needed in the process? So that's you saw the recent. I think yesterday had news said they
Right.
refund like $257
Million
million
dollars.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's for even BYD. BYD has a very strong background in terms
Mhm.
of the U.S. investment relationship.
Yeah.
Actually, Warren Buffett is the one of the holder. I
Sure.
say always say the one of the holder because initially he was one of the largest shareholder, but now it's small. But he still is right. Still
Yeah.
is one of the shareholder. But even company like this, they have resources connection in United States, but they still don't have a clear I would say path how to handle it. So that's actually the topic I bring in is medical device is a highly regulated industry. It's
True.
different from anything else.
Mhm.
So yes,
It must be very frustrated for the buyers, especially for the hospitals, the frontliners who are in need of those supplies and PPEs. Given that some big manufacturer or some big suppliers could also like generating problems or like could have potential setbacks, then the question is, what would be kind of like the reliable protocol for the hospitals and the buyers to really run the due diligence check or to really verify the manufacturers or suppliers in order to prevent the potential setbacks?
yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, it's let's say looking at the healthcare system in United States.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like a major system, they don't have problem in terms of the expertise to handle the global purchase procurement.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of, let's see, like a local community hospital or even some like a nursery house, they never have experienced global sourcing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's actually for them is a challenge. But and also in United States, FDA manages the whole system really well.
Mm-hmm.
So from three direction, and each direct dimension has a lot of criteria, certificates, all the. But given the fact globally, even the CE system is a chaos. I would say that's actually the reason why CE need a reform, move to the MDR system. It's
Mm-hmm.
more actually similar as how FDA handle the market. But for those small hospital or even a lot of association, I met like in Bay Area has a lot of like some nursing house. They
Mm-hmm.
lack of PPE, but in United States, there are not enough market supply in the market. So that gives them a challenge. If go also outside the United States, they never facing such kind of market chaos. So that's I think yesterday has another news is NIOSH tested.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Right.
Tested over 80 plus companies' product,
Right.
and deleted about 72 KN95 in the EUA system, right, from China.
They have revoked a lot of the EUAs of the
Yeah,
respirators,
yeah,
just because when they get the products, they find out the paperwork and the actual product doesn't really match each other.
yes, that's actually the key reason. So that's why in FDA is really good is they manage the issue from manufacturer, from product itself, and so also from the commercial transaction as well. So they need tracing the contract from the manufacturer side until the hospital. Otherwise, the hospital has a liability to respond to the. And in United States, like when I was practicing medicine, I have contract with the hospital, but basically some contract is the hospital provide the equipment, but some is I personally able to purchase and get there. But that's really depend on who's taking the liability. And so if and the majority of the management team in the hospital is a professional hospital management, just like running other business, same thing. They weren't willing to take the responsibility if the three dimension I mentioned from FDA's guideline not match. So it's and also those small hospitals, they never facing the global sourcing. So if they don't know how to buy the stuff from China, they don't know how to buy the stuff from Japan. I know some of them know how to handle in Europe, but this time the major stake in China, because the majority of PPE China manufacture over 50%. I would say at this moment probably 70%, because a lot of the capacity is in China is actually already escalated into other level before the pandemic. So probably they take about 70% of them. And China also, there's a lot of regulatory, but their system is changes, I would say, daily. Maybe daily is a little bit exaggerated, but it keep changing. Even before the pandemic, those rules in China keep changing. So you need well-connected people to connect with that market to make sure you understand what's changed, what's not, what's the key point you're taking care of, where is the focus you're looking at. And also in China, a lot of things is like there's a lot, I would say, middleman. They purchase a larger quantity of PPE in their stock. And then for them, it's a totally, and also there's a real, some is a fake the product.
True.
So it's like in those kind of environment, you do the business really need to be very careful. I would say for those local community hospital or for those I would say private small system and a global, I would say ideally find somebody, because I involve over 20 plus charity group donation, help them identify what kind of product potentially has what kind of problem. And also we try our best to bring the right PPE into United States. Same thing I would suggest is you don't worry about. I know in the past I charging people over 500 per hour's rate just for those kind of consulting. But this time for the pandemic, I do those for free. The reason is we really want people. We really want healthcare professional. They just like my sister and brother. We go through a long time study in the medical school. Then you have a residency, 3 to 5 years. Then you go to the fellowship. Then you go to the fellowship residency. So the total you spend 15 years easily in the school or hospital. And we all have our oars is to help people healthily in the healthcare system. So I don't want my brother and sister wear some like a fake equipment and eventually got infected just because something we're able to do but not do. So that's this time I do it for free, over 20 different donation group. And for those small hospital or system, don't hesitate to reach out to the healthcare professional in the industry. I know, actually, a couple of days ago, I talking with Pat, is coming from another San Jose senior nursing house. Don't be worried. First, you're looking at those certificates, like you mentioned. If it's from China, basically those certificates you're looking at one the GB system, another is CE system, and some of the manufacturer has the FDA system as well. Mm-hmm. And those certificates for FDA, it's much easier. Is you can verify on the internet, real time, instantly.
Right.
So you just that's only take you a couple small you can identify a lot of and another is in China, the GB system is very simple as well. GB like a 2626, that's for the civil use, not for the healthcare professional use. But there is a 109A3, that standard is for the professional healthcare professional use. And also you have the like N95, you have the some of the but another thing that you need to looking at is ask them, give you some sample, or if not, you can buy a small purchase like a one box or something, bring to United States first, and do those Titan test, and you can do a lot of tests yourself. And then another is for whoever you want to do the commercial transaction with, you need to make sure they have the right qualified business partner, which means for medical devices, there's in China, same thing. They have a level only allow you trading the type 1 devices. Some is allow you trading type 2. Some is allow you trading type 3. So usually you need looking at, for the PPE, you're looking at minimally, usually is those able to trading type 2 devices. So the commercial partner. And another is do connect with whoever manufacture it. Because in a lot of cases, you have one manufacturer in it, and you have some of the export-import company in the middle, and then you have another commercial partner in the middle here in the United States. United States side is much easier. I saw some of the company, I can mention a couple Flexport, or some of the export import. They have a qualification processing as well. So in the China side, if you do those, every step, follow the step, you probably already exclude about 80 to 90% of fake product. That's another. Right. And another one that make sure financially, make sure you have I think our governor is very smart, right? You have a contract with a big guy, and even you without the big guy in China has an escort service actually. So if a manufacturer not large enough, then you can hire a Shanghai Pharma or a National Pharma, those China's big company, ask them to escort service. Escort service usually cost you about 2 to 7%. It depends on a lot of variables. But I would say in this scenario, it's worth it. Because,
Can I ask about what exactly the escort service would be? Because this would be a new term for me, and probably also a new term for many buyers or the workers in the hospital. Could you please just enlighten us?
Yeah. So the escort service basically is you sign 3 parts of the contract. One part is yourself, another is the manufacturer side or your supply in China. I would say qualified supply in China. But there is a consulting service in China from the big 5. I can mention a couple Shanghai Pharma, National Pharma, and then you have, so there's a couple 5. You can Google, easily find them. And if they actually taking your 2 to 7% of the total contract value, but they guarantee or they do a lot of due diligence and verification work for you. So, but for Chinese escort, probably you only able to rely on them is for GB system, the China's standard system, because they're familiar with those themselves. But for the CE, probably you need to do some other things. And then for a lot of nursing house, I know when I do the donation, ask a lot of group, is that usually I do ask the hospital or the healthcare facility is if they're willing to open a purchase channel. Because everybody know, usually in this pandemic, people like to do the donation. I know. I actually I appreciate the compassionism we have and protect our own community. But if you want to do this sustainably, you need to open the channel for that. Not only give the stuff, like just like you want people have the fish in the table, you need teach them how to catch the fish.
Yeah.
Not just give the fish, right?
Right.
And also, a lot of United States has a lot of good things versus China is the per capita cost, the healthcare cost. We spend about over 8,000 to 9,000 US dollars per capita on the healthcare side. That's I think 3 years ago's number. You can double check the number today. I would say even more, not gonna be less. China only spend about $500. So that's a difference. Is we in majority of the cases they don't have the channel, but they have the money, right? But of course, I don't want those facility like overprice it because it's gonna be reduce the purchase power if the price is high. But you do able to like if you don't have the channel, a lot of people like me willing to freely help you open the channel for free. I don't want to charge anything. I just want to make sure you're able to get the PPE for your employee, for your healthcare professionals. And also, I know some of the charity group, or they also working on some like platform, try to connect supply versus the procurement side. So
this is
at least
what the MedsupplyLife we're trying to do here. Well.
Yeah, and also at least I saw some of the Chinese company do the similar things as well. So they try to do that, and for the going forward, I would suggest is you do keep a purchasing possibility both in United States and outside United States until this nation able to manufacture fully by ourselves. So the reason is over 95%. Let's say mask as an example, 95% we purchase the mask is not manufactured in China or not manufactured in the United States. So you can imagine, and also you know in the United States you have three big giants. One is the federal government, some FEMA, some others. They are purchasing large quantity of them, and then state governments they also purchase a large quantity and taking care of a lot of their hospital as well. And then you have like a Southern Health, Kaiser Permanente, and a lot of those. So the bigger group, they have the power to do a lot of things those small company, hospital, or small nursing facility not able to do. So you at least like open two sources. One is from a sustainable channel outside the United States, another is from inside. Until this nation able to manufacture the PPE ourselves at some point.
Based on your observation, it sounds like we're really talking about a long plan. Based on your observation, how long you think we need to keep our options open, both domestically and also internationally? Do you have a rough projection or expectation about the time?
Yeah, we can looking at like a company like a 3M or Honeywell. How do they ramping up the capacity? Like 3M take them about 2 months to ramping up the N95 from I think about like 100 million globally till right now about 10 times. But it takes them 2 months, almost 2 months. And then Honeywell a little bit slower. But the challenge for them is so if the pandemic go away, so the market price go down, are they still able to sustain or keep those manufacturing line? So that's my challenge. So because I very doubt about that because even today N95 you're able to sell in the market about like $3 to $7 somewhere. But if you go back to like before pandemic or even 1 year ago, 1860 from 3M only sold to the hospital around like $1, maybe even less than $1. I saw some of the contract 73 cents per each in 95.
Yeah.
And I can understand some of the material price is like escalate like 20, 30 plus times, right? I know that. Even if you count them into it, in the long run, I don't believe the cost, unless the company or unless the nation, the nation like Donald Trump or some of the government willingly long-term use a tax strategy keep some of the manufacture within the United States, or maybe like a compensation system do something. Otherwise, I still think those low tax stuff gonna be outside the United States. But you might be able to use a strategy not only rely on China. You can put some in Japan, some in Southeast Asia, some in China, and make sure you have like those. And another is for those small clinic, really small clinic. Like I do donation into some of the like respiratory clinic, like a Columbia Respiratory Clinic, 15 in Bay Area. Each is very small, 7 to 10 people, and then healthcare professional. And for those one, for them is for those small clinic, I would say is that would be working with the association or working with small business administration, try to figure out, get some like consulting capability. Because even people like me, I like money, but the challenge is I want to protect the healthcare professional first. Right. I want to do anything I can to prevent the medical system to be collapsed, just like what we saw in Italy, in Spain. I don't want those things happening in here. So United States has the best healthcare system, but if the system is collapsed, the death ratio is going to be grow not only 1%. I will guarantee you that's going to be go to 7%, 10%, maybe even higher. The reason is the medical, although even today we don't have a specific treatment target to the COVID-19, but the medical intervention still saving a lot of life, still, even today, every day. So I don't want the system collapse, and I don't think anybody wants the system collapse. So, and also nursing, long-term care, those rehab, those facilities also are, although within the system they are the weak side, but still they playing a very key role in the system. So that's my recommendation is always working with a small business administration, working with like a professional association, like AHA, Respiratory Association, or Chinese American Association. So those professional associations try to get like a group impact on the purchasing process to reduce the price gouging potentially. And another advice I would say is avoid those middlemen, because you never know, especially people never had even people like me in the industry has well connected with the industry since 2002. It's almost like 20 years we're connected in the industry and practice medicine over almost 30 years. Even people like me, I still bought some fake mask.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not possible to totally avoid it. But of course, if you have a reliable, consistent, sustainable channel, you can avoid them. Majority of those fake masks coming from some channel just established, and also qualification had issue as well for them just established. So like a lot of big company has a process like AVL, approved vendor list. So the process is very good. You can working with a small business, and another is working with like a bigger company like Kaiser, Sutter, and also I would suggest those bigger systems, because you guys have the capability to help those small little ones. So.
But actually, it's also a challenge even for us. For example, for the UC system or for the Kaiser, we still run into the difficulties in running the due diligence. For example, it's like several of the topics that you previously covered. One would be the challenge from the regulations, like import export regulations back in China. The second would be the certification. Even they provide the certificate. But still, we actually run into some of the certificates are fake. I think recently a huge topic was the so-called FDA certificates, which is circulating on the Chinese market among the Chinese manufacturers. And they believe it's a real or even the 510K equivalent document. But actually, according to FDA website, there's no such certificate is really issued in a paper version or in the hard copy version. I'm also wondering, like, when you're providing the consult service, have you ever run into similar type of the certificates which are not really that valid?
Yeah, a lot. I would say a lot. Because like a certificate itself is basically same thing. You go through the three dimension. One is the product certificate, another manufacturer certification system, and another the commercial qualification system. And for the certificate itself, it's probably is just some like a paperwork. It's much easier to you verify or either deny or either true or have a big question mark there. Verify a couple. That's you create a process able to handle it very well. But another thing is the probably you need to do is some of the market analysis as well. The reason I mentioned the market analysis is because let's see capacity. If we use like a Dasheng as an example, so daily capacity, they have a limitation, and they probably already have some level of concept. So you can tell if somebody in front of you tell you they're able to provide 1 million, couple million product every day to your system. So it's not possible because the capacity not so much, right? So it's like that's actually the key reason is I highly recommend the ASCO service is they're able to on-site go there, take a look on their full capacity, real capacity. And also able to do some of the research, looking at how much capacity already occupied. Then you can tell how much real product potentially you're able to get. So
and
you still need
so that is totally a different notion from the middleman, because there are third-party evaluation organization that they can provide the unbiased due diligence for the American buyers or the American hospitals, but they can actually see with their own eyes what happened on site, right?
Yes. Also, in a lot of cases, I ask them send me the video clip. They go to the on-site and then take a video clip, because usually you want to take a look on the manufacture production process, like where needed to be sanitized. Where needed without any germs or so the standard process. You can tell. And also in some cases, like the mask, you can tell in each minute how much mask potentially able to produce. So if it's really fast, you can tell it's not real, or it's a red flag there, right? So they able to provide those service as well. And also some is of course you also can hire me. Right. Some as well.
Will you be able to like go back to China and check some of
we have a team. I have about 5 people, 2 in Shanghai, 3 in Beijing. So they able to do the travel. So if they have the contract, but in the past we never do anything regarding the PPE, because the majority of our efforts on those investment. Right now, I have over 20 plus projects from venture capital side. And then we need to find the qualified manufacturers, a lot of similar things. But they do willing to help if needed. So it's, I would say, if the hospital or I would say those small guys in the healthcare system in the United States. So you can working with the association, small business administration and a bigger company, and also some of the professional consulting company as well. So, and also in a lot of we donate to some of the hospital go to there. I can tell they really need them PPE not only because of the pandemic. I can tell even on regular days, they also lack of those supply. So it's like also some of because like people like me, same thing. I like making money, but I also have a philosophy. Do the a lot of my volunteer time is for those donation, for those kind of hospital or for those kind of healthcare system. So and also in the consulting industry, there's a lot of those kind of my fellows or some is my competitor, but they are my fellows. They're willing to do the similar things, and if they're able to help, and you just reach out, and also in the daily base, in the regular day, also keep one global sourcing channel open until United States able to manufacture ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's gonna be. I would say just like go back to the question you have is it might be take years before we're really able to manufacture ourselves.
Back on our
For
feet, right?
yeah, like so that's so kind of capability is needed. And another thing I would suggest is those group or even like SBA or the state government, if they're able to hire a small team, provide some consulting services, that will be help a lot. Because donation, of course, we need some donation to help a little bit, but the donation only solves some of the problem. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're not able to give a sustainable
Right.
solution, right?
We're
So
looking
it's
for a
yeah,
long term, and we need to think it in a self-sustainable way.
yeah, you're right, you're right. And in for some of the those I also discussed with the venture capital side as well. Is we do have some discussion going on. Is try to register global like a United States brand, register United States product, and OEM the source ourselves. But that's for charity purpose. So basically, for charity purpose, is whatever the cost is, we don't margin up 1 penny on that. Just pass away, go to because personally, I don't like the pure donation. The reason is if it's a pandemic, it's okay. I just send over the free stuff to go to anywhere it's needed to try my best. But if you want to solve the issue, give a sustainable solution, probably is working on a like a cost basis. I know if margin up, it's going to be cost those long-term care, so nursery facility a lot, but we can produce or create like a cost pass channel for them, and then they're able to get the same. I would say same competitive advantage versus the big purchaser in the United States. So
And
that's probably able to solve the issue at
right.
least a little bit longer.
And based on that, we probably even can propose to the government to support those small business and small hospitals and facilities for the long run, because that would be something that we probably need to take into consideration.
Yes, for sure. Yes,
Right.
that's gonna be something I would if you have channel or if you guys have something going, I would be really happy to help. Because that's from technical side, from understand of the how it works, both industry side and healthcare system side. Because
Mhm.
that's really take some people like me has both side of experience. I know a lot of like a healthcare professional, they never step in the industry. So
Totally. A
yeah,
lot of things you talked about today are really eye opening. For example, previously I never really knew there would be the escort system or the focus over there. And
yeah,
actually, again, sorry, I'm just like so curious about this new notion because it's totally new to me. And we know that for the hospitals, we need to run some of the testings, making sure that the equipments are actually meet our standards. And also another thing is we can making sure that what described in the paperwork, what is labeled on the package, really match up with what is inside. Because as a medical worker and a researcher, we actually realize that sometimes the quality of the equipment or the agents or reagents might vary from batch to batch. Given that now it's like really urgent time, sometimes even people try their best to do the quality control, but there would be some of the deviations and the variables. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, like, do you think the escort service you described, the local escort service, could also run some of those tests and
Yeah,
making
sure,
sure that the
sure.
test standards match up?
Yeah, sure. So it's at this moment, my concerning on the escort service to run the test is because it's for them is usually is time consuming to the
I
test.
see.
And yeah, of course, if you it's more like a quality control issue, right?
Yeah,
It's rather than a standard or certificate issue, right?
true.
And so it's that, but of course, so if there is a need or if a long-term supply you try to establishing, for
Hmm.
sure they can do that because that's usually is let's say I familiar with like a Shanghai farmer, they
Hmm.
do have the capacity to do it, and also they have the capability to do it, and
Hmm.
they have the like for a product usually you can do it actually in a like a tax-free zone in Shanghai.
Hmm.
And after finish them, if everything is okay, then send over to United States. Then
Right.
you don't run into the situation like BYD did with the California government, right?
Yeah.
I think it's over like a 50 million masks
Yeah.
already in United States.
Yeah.
But the test results are really disappointing. Right?
Yeah.
So if we do the test before it's put on the cargo, that
Mhm.
might be make more sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Totally.
like yeah, it's especially and also another things I would say I don't know if how much FDA able to do because they already have the team in like a China consulate in Beijing.
Hmm.
Uh, so what, they do the like a manufacture production process inspection in China, and so why not to put one or more people or one something help do this one product quality control as well.
Hmm.
Or another thing is the government some also able to do something is like working with the Chinese government together do
Hmm.
the export import. Like that's actually because you might be know past a couple of weeks I personally I frustrate a lot as well. We have some of the product purchased in China,
Hmm.
but because China keep changing the export policy,
Right.
so we have a lot of stuff in Shanghai not able to ship to here. So
Exactly.
it's like I think some other people facing the similar situation as well. So
Hmm.
and then current processing how it work is they keep blaming finger point each other. Chinese government finger point United States say you have to restrict the rule, blah blah those things, and the United States government the finger point Chinese government you don't allow those product getting out, blah blah blah. So it's like a but why not we able to working together set up some places like just like a couple months ago when I travel from Toronto flying back to United States, actually the US custom is in Toronto side,
Hmm.
right? So you can have a team together in maybe like a tax free zone or somewhere
A
to
mutual
secure the
energy.
supply, right? So that's something, you know what I mean, right? So it's
Yeah.
if both governments try to solve the issue for people like me, I don't like yeah politics is some issue, but most important at this moment is
We need to
saving
work
life
together.
and
We,
yeah keep working together. Keep the if we have something, if you want to fighting each other after the pandemic,
yeah.
not at it, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So
I
it's
totally agree.
yeah, so that's actually some suggestion. And also in long run, if the United States are gonna keep 95% of the mask gonna be an imported product, if the United States that's a strategy, then why not just keep some of one is split to the supply from some from China, some from somewhere else. And another is if that's a major sourcing places we are working with, we probably need a working at that side, not after the product shipped into the United States, right? So
Hmm.
you can working on similar approach. Have a team in the from government in in China to handle the like inspection and the product certification verification. So that might be helpful. So it's might be against the free trade rules, but people here, majority of the hospital here, really don't have the capability to figure out which is right, which is wrong, right?
And
And even
actually, I
everything
kind
is
of
right,
yeah,
even everything is right doesn't mean the product is right, right?
yeah. And especially for the regulation part, the buyers need to deal with two sets of regulations: U.S. regulation plus the Chinese regulation.
Mhm.
As you suggested, if we can have both and sitting down and work collaboratively and just to have a unified regulation that's solving the trade problem, it probably will be much easier for the hospitals or the buyers to deal with that.
Yeah, that's a good question, but over the past 20 years experience, I don't think that's possible. Like I don't even mention China. Globally, in the past, China is a rising power. In the past, China is really small, and for medical devices, usually United States taking about 45 to 50% of market share, and then Europe take about I would say like a 15 to 20, and then Japan take about 15%.
Mhm.
And then that's a three major market. And then that's the reason a lot of my project or those medical devices is target those major three. But
I
China is growing from about 2% to 20 years, or not 20, 10 years ago. 20 years, 0.2%. And 10 years ago is 2%. And now is China take about more or less around 7% total market share.
mm,
And that's based on the product I handled in the majority in the not PPE side, majority in the cardiologist
mhm,
and also respiratory side. So
mhm,
those market number. And then don't even talking about China, just talking about the Japan's MHLAW,
mhm,
PMDA. One is for manufacturer, one is manage the market. And Europe has a CE system, but now they're moving MDR. And
mhm,
the United States FDA is working on the system how to manage the market.
mhm.
Those three have different standard. The reason is that the reason is that actually is not because the government; it's because the healthcare professionals. Like give you a mask. Let's see one of the measurement we use, like for a standard in United States, we use like the type 3. In United States, we separated the mask into L1, L2, L3, three
Mhm.
different levels. Basically, L3 is more on the surgical use, and L1, L2 is on non-surgical use, right?
Right.
Usually.
Yep.
And for the surgical use or for the maybe called procedure use is more professional.
Right.
For the procedure use,
Yep.
and there is one measurement very critical, and we have argument within the healthcare professionals. And majority Europe doctor thinks is the surgeon thinks is their thought is 120 mmHg is good enough for
Mhm.
prevent the like the blood flush, those
Yep.
things.
Yep.
But the United States don't. We believe 160 mmHg is the minimum.
Mm. Yeah.
And then Japan usually Japan I think is 120. Go with the Europe, but
Mhm.
we have a standard. But we have a lot of research paper prove 160. But we can't
Okay.
convince our colleagues, our counterparts in Europe.
Right.
So
Right.
it's okay. So I would say that my point is it's okay has a slightly different measurement or standard, but
Mhm.
people like us in the industry side, you need to understand what's the key difference. And let's see, like, but if you have like a China surgical mask coming to here or Europe FFP3 coming to United States, but
Mhm.
how to use it? It's a 120 mmHg standard, but we won't have a 160 mmHg, right? So
Mhm.
how to use it? So it's a simple way that you put a face shield on that, right?
True.
So there is solution. So if you know what's the difference and you have a solution to it, then you can have like clearly label it. So how to use it in what kind of scenario, right?
I
So
think
it's
you're talking exactly in the way that the EUA suggests us to do, which is like these will be the emergency
yeah,
use, but we
yeah,
need
yeah.
to label them in a very like
Get
detailed
it.
way. Yeah.
And another thing right now is I would say is I want to add on is because it's a different market and even labeling has a regulation there as well. They don't allow you to label yourself. They have to follow the rules. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say if a product is shipped into United States, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be used in United States.
Mm-hmm.
Probably you're able to put like a Europe label and plus a small stick on it, right? Before you ship into the hospital,
Yeah.
right? That might be helpful. So it's like there's some things actually the government able to do, and some is association able to do,
Mm-hmm.
some is consulting able to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, and until United States able to manufacture them, I would say minimally like a 2/3, let's say like a 60% of the
Mm-hmm.
production able to supply is rely on U.S. made.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you always need the dual channels. One is the global sourcing, another the local sourcing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, is so the capable business partner facility like Canada, Southern Health, Stanford, UCSF, for those capable, they have the dual system, but they don't need it.
Right.
Actually, in United States, if
That's
the
right.
market is anything, they get it first, right?
True.
And for those that needed it badly, like those nursing homes, those facilities, they don't have the capability to do the global sourcing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I would say is the only solution able to coming from governments or coming from on the like a federal or
Right.
state level to handle it.
Yeah, what
So
we're talking here is something like institutional I don't want to use the word flaw, but that would be something that need further improvement, right?
yeah, loophole.
Yes,
Just
yes.
some management systems loophole. That's
Mhm.
probably is very very like politely say it's a loophole. The management system loophole. Yeah, there are a lot of industry has similar issues because like usually that's like the some people need it, they don't get it, but some
Mhm.
people maybe that's an option for somebody, but they have the capability and the capacity. But
Mhm.
that's a necessity for somebody, but somebody don't have it. So for
Right.
those local hospitals, small little guy in the healthcare system, so this
Mhm.
might be something. And also for pandemic like this, and the majority of the local hospital playing a very important role. If it's like you can tell in like let's see New York State as an example,
Mhm.
and today probably over 30,000 patient in hospital patient, 90% is in the local hospital, right? It's
Right.
not in and almost 1/3 of them is in so the very vulnerable
Mhm.
facility, I would say, right? And for those really big guys, they don't lack of anything, but they so
They
it's a
kind of
difference. So
have
it's
a lot of compared to the other smaller facilities, they're
mhm.
in a better shape and in a better
Yeah,
condition.
much better shape. Yeah, like a donation.
Right.
I heard Stanford, which I have contract with them. In which month I forgot. 1 month they got a donation over 1 million in '95. So it's like so I know people do donation. Yeah, people do donation. A lot of people do donation in Bay Area. Want to go to UCSF and Stanford Medical Center. But I have like a CSE a donation organization. I clearly at the first day tell them if you want to donate, go to Stanford or go to UCSF. I'm not gonna be donate anything. If they want to, they're not able to buy it. They don't have the channel. I'm happy to introduce some of the feasible solution for them. But
you're
if it's a donation, you need looking at the local hospital.
you're
You need
really
looking at
rooted for
the
the local hospital and smaller institute and
yeah
facilities.
Yeah, at the same time, so I would like to suggest is all the bigger guys also. If you got a donation and if you're not able to use it, or if you
Share with people.
share with people. So it's like because the pandemic is a community issue. It's like the whole nation is facing the same issue. You need to solve just the same thing as you need to get people treatment for free. The same thing. Doesn't matter they have the health insurance or not. You need to treat them and treat them well. Make sure it's a pandemic able to stop in the hospital. We have a like efficiency intervention system in the medical system. So, and another thing is, I think the United States is a great nation. So, if we're not able to handle it, nobody in the globe, on the earth, able to handle it. I guarantee you. Because
Thank
we
you
have
so much. It's very insightful, and actually, I just realized that our interview is almost an hour. Just like a recap, we have discussed about how to review the supplies, and how to run the due diligence. And Dr. Wang, you have covered that for especially for the small facilities who don't have those experience working with the international partners, they need to like check the labeling rules, the regulations, the certificate, and maybe they should work together in order to get a big order and working with the big suppliers and to get the escort service. Besides those, do you have any other suggestions for those small facilities and local hospitals?
Another is for those small hospitals, try to get some like those bigger system has a inspection system locally. So that's actually the last defensive line you're able to have. Because usually the first line you're looking at the management side, like three dimension, the commercial transaction partner, the product certificate system, and the manufacturer system. That's the first line of defensive. And then transaction side, you can set up like an escort service system. That's a second line, defensive line. And the last line you have is within your facility. Actually, a lot of inspection didn't cost a lot. You can have, I can understand if a small facility not able to handle it, you might be able to have have a group or association or some format to share those inspection small facility to handle the last side. Another is to try to create like a vendor system, management system, just like those bigger purchasing players, same thing. So that's actually is very important because it's if we're able to safely go through this pandemic, for a lot of small guys, you're still facing long-term issues, right? So those actually eventually you all need it, and also the cost you can control into some level, affordable, I would say. And of course, the last suggestion I would have is, if possible, have our own branded. Then you can go China to get the OEM sourcing, because this time I can tell a lot of the order is not because the order issue; it's because the capacity issue. So a lot of fully certified, fully qualified partner in China or globally, they already in a full capacity, just not able to keep up the demand. So if you really have the qualification inspection system locally, then you can open a lot of company. Personally, I do have experience with some of the manufacturer in China. Their product quality is very good, but regretfully is because they don't have the regulatory compliance. So we're just not able to buy from them. But the product quality is much better than even some of already in the list, in the FDA list. So for those, if you have own like a QC system, then in the scenario like this, you open another possibility.
Sure.
So it's like I would say, yeah, that's a three line defensively handle those kind of issues until. But personally, I do suggest the government need to get some strategy on it. It's not safe. 95% of the mask, although the mask is low tech stuffs, but it's not safe. I would say healthcare, medical healthcare product, it's as important as the defense industry. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like you can't 95% rely on the importation. It's wrong. Clearly, it's wrong. So it's if you tell me it's 30%, 40%, maybe okay. If you tell me 50%, I would put a red flag there. And if you tell me 95%, it's wrong. Deadly wrong.
Currently, what is the percentage of the imported equipment now?
For mask, I clearly know 95% is manufactured outside the United States.
That's a lot. That's really a lot.
Yeah, that's very scary. So for me, it's scary because not every government shares the same value as we do, right?
Right.
They use those as a weapon. So what are you can do? And you have they control everything. So that's deadly wrong. So minimally, you bring 1/3 within United States. And ideally, you need to bring 2/3 back to United States. And policy-wise or strategy-wise, you need some level of adjustment or compensation, whatever the strategy. You need to figure out how to handle it. That's I believe it's government's responsibility. Just like a defense industry, you don't allow the defense industry manufacture outside the United States for a lot of key parts, right? So that is something need to take a second look on it. So some is like in this pandemic, like Europe or Japan or those countries actually competing the product, right? Some is actually use the product, use the PPE as a weapon, like a diplomatic weapon. That's ridiculous. So my value don't have that. So I think like if you want fight after the pandemic, you do whatever you like. Right, but not during it. So it's but we need to review our own scenarios. We need to take a look on our own issue. So we need to because you have 95% of supply outside, although it's under the name 3M or Honeywell, but it's still manufactured outside it. Then they have a government order to seal everything and supply locally. Then you don't have those coming back to the United States.
And we haven't even talking about the shipment and the other thing and tax and the import and export regulations, and that just like further complicated things. We probably can discuss that in another interview.
Yeah, you're right. And also another is liability. Like if it's a partner in United States, if they do something wrong, you can chasing them over the court, right? But if it's an overseas company, so it's it's a very challenging, right? So it's like so it's for other commercial, you might be only lost the money. That's fine. You can make money later, right? But for defense industry and healthcare industry, it's a different story. And another thing we didn't mention in this session is just like ibuprofen.
Also. Oh yeah, drugs. Another topic. Another topic. Yes.
So the active ingredient, 90% is outside the United States, right? So that's something we need to review our policy and review our situation. Make sure we are safe, right?
Yeah.
We have 300 million people. It's not like Europe, right? Europe, each market is a small market, but we have such a huge market here. Why we can't supply ourselves at least into some safe level, right?
I totally agree. Thank you very much for your great insights. And we're approaching the end of our chat. Just like as a experienced healthcare and business models investor and also consultant, do you have anything you want to address to our frontliners and the healthcare workers? Is there anything else you want to share with them, or you want to just like send some greetings to them to cheer them up?
Yeah, I want to cheer everybody up because like N95 in United States, manufacture is catching up. It's a lot of indicators already show up, so it's already like catching up, and a lot of PPE. I think actually U.S. is a great nation. We're able to go through it really well. I believe, and even stronger after we go through it. So it's like, but of course, a lot of policy we need to review it, redo it, and even rebuilding it. The industry need a rebuilding within the United States into some level for sure. And for the healthcare professional, it's really appreciate. I really thank. It's a very key issue for everybody in this community and nationwide for sure. So I hope we can go through this. It's already have a lot of indicators show up. The pandemic is into some level of control, and then next step is how to reopen America. So it's like during the reopen, we still need to keep ourselves alert.
Mhm.
Maybe we need to go back and forth. It really depends on how everything going. But the good things for us is we are start to saw those like a turning point, in terms of the pandemic itself, and also the weather is getting much warmer. Like today in Bay Area, it's 90 degree.
Uh-huh.
Although I know the high temperature not going to kill the virus, but it's going to be slow down it for sure,
Mhm.
right, into some level. So we are actually in a lot of, but of course I still worry about a little bit about like places like New York or Boston, especially Boston. New York pretty very clear it's already on the peak side for the last week.
Mhm.
But Boston is I still concerned a lot. Boston and also of course like Connecticut, Rhode Island, so the New England area in the northern side of New
Right.
England. That's still because the warm weather still like 1 or 2 months away from now. So
Mhm.
it's still challenging. Michigan as well is another spot. Chicago, so the Midwest as well. So that area is, and also at the same time, I would suggest that if a lot of donation or a lot of people, if you're able to help, keep an eye on those area. So it's pretty much California. I think the whole government healthcare system doing a really good job. It's clearly it's show up the something, but of course we need to keep alert, alert always. So it's like reopen the market. It's very important for everybody. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And this is great to have you today. And we're going to post our interviews later on our YouTube channel. And for some of the topics that we briefly mentioned, but haven't really like elaborate, for example, like the shipment, the import and export policy, and maybe about drugs. Hopefully, we can schedule up further interviews with you that you can share more of your valuable experience and insights with us.
Yeah, sure. If I can be helpful, I'm very happy to be helpful.
You're very helpful already. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a
Yeah,
good
you too.
weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Take care. Mhm.
Bye.